Hello everyone, welcome back to the Preppers Fireside, and we've got a full fireside this evening. We went from having two of us to five in the space of about 1 minute due to my excellent organisation skills, not last minute at all. But tonight we are joined by Brian, of course, Scottish Prepper 73. How's your day been, Brian?
Yeah, good, mate. Working this morning, and then, usual.
And we have the Bombardier, Andy. How's your day been?
Yeah, good, mate. Good today. Chilled. Went out and did a trip to Costco today. Bought some off-the-cuff preps, so that'll probably come in today's topic.
Oh, cool. Excellent. And we have Alan, a guest again, with the world survivalist. Have you been kayaking or DJing today? I'm just going off your background. I've no idea, but, you know.
No, they're just for decoration, really, to be honest. Can't do any of that stuff. But
That's just a poster.
That's a green screen. Now, what are you talking about? No, did a little bit of work on the bike, but the bug-out bike, I like to call it. It's a camping sort of adventure bike. So
Cool. Awesome. And Hawkins, the man without a face. How's your day been?
Hungover, mate. I just reached that age now where if you have a drink the night before, you pay the pain the entire day.
No, you need to stop Pepsi. It's terrible. It's bad for you. We have lots of people in the chat. I'll mention Norfolk Prepper UK because he was so happy that he was the first in there to comment. So hi, Norfolk Prepper. Loads of you in there. I'm already miles and miles behind. Miss Worm, our awesome moderator in there, keep you in check. Andy's in there because he just doesn't like talking to you, so he's just going to type instead. So, you know. We do try and keep you involved, Andy. You don't have to type. It's all right. So today's topic is just general, very general, because it's prep life. It's the life of a prepper, whether that's this extreme, whether it's this little mild bit or anything like that. It's just what your day-to-day is more than anything else. So this is heavily all about you guys in the chat. So remember, questions, block capitals, or the option of the super chat, either or, and I'll try and highlight them, and we'll come to the questions regular on this one. So it's a good opportunity to get your questions in. Just not too much about power banks because the rest of us want to be involved in the conversation, not just Brian versus you lot. So right, so let's start with the obvious one when it comes to prepping as a lifestyle. I should have done the lifestyle, not prepping. That's the wrong bit of the air quotes. But Brian, how much of your day /week /month, or how much of your time is dedicated to prepping related activities, would you say, as a ballpark figure?
This month/year has been uncharacteristically heavy because of the project building this cash cow. Generally, it's maintenance, but this has probably been about 6 weeks in between work solid.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, it would be stocking up, replacing things, rotating things, discharging, charging power banks, emptying water, replenishing that kind of shit, running generator, make sure it's fueled.
Yeah, we'll get into like the more details of it. But I mean, time-wise, in a 24-hour period, half an hour spent doing stuff like that, or is it a lot longer than your day?
Recently, probably a couple hours a day.
Right, okay. Cool. Andy, same question. How much time do you spend, if any, on dedicated prepping activities?
Probably an hour a day, mate, I would say. Probably half an hour in the morning before I go to work, and then probably half an hour when I come home from work, and that's mainly around replanning EDC stuff that I've used during the day. Right, okay.
Yeah. So would you say that's every day then?
Yeah, pretty much, mate. Well, apart from on a weekend, because obviously I'm not at work. But then again, I suppose I'm a bit like Brian, mate, in terms of things have ramped up for me because I put that first video out when I got a lot of good reception from it. So planning to do stuff on that side of things takes up a lot more time. That was obviously, as you'll know. But like as in general prepping that I used to do, probably like I say, probably an hour a day.
Yeah, cool. Alan, yourself, how much your time's dedicated to kind of prepping, survivalism, training, anything like that on a daily or weekly basis?
You know, I don't think I have a dedicated day where I say, you know, from this time till this time, I'm survivalist mode or prepper mode or anything like that. I think because I've been thinking about it for such a long time, it's just there's a daily part of my life. There's a certain amount of blogs and news articles I'll read in the morning.
Yeah.
Of an insight. It's not mainstream media. It's just 5 or 6 trusted sort of places. Then if I go to work, I'm thinking about what I've read in the news that day, and the way I think, it kind of just I'm always thinking ahead.
More the mental side of it than actual physical actions. Then we're saying, Hawkins, how much time do you spend on prepping related activities on a daily basis?
Difficult, isn't it? I think you spend a lot of time thinking about stuff, a lot of time reading stuff, a lot of time catching up with news. I'll read anything I can find about prepping on the internet, which, you get some weird stuff and some normal stuff. And then there's the physical side of it, like Brian was saying, like trying to de-energize your power banks and stuff and run through stuff. But I guess you lot are probably the same as me. Kind of, if you live this sort of lifestyle, everything's a little bit preppy, isn't it? Like you think of everything in a preppy mindset, and you probably spend an unhealthy amount of time thinking about it, to be honest, and doing stuff towards it. But so I'd say a fair few hours a day, probably more than you probably get a more realistic answer from my wife, but I'd say a fair few hours a day.
Too much time. We know the answer for everybody's wife is just too much time. It's interesting because it's like we try and sell it to new people as it doesn't take that much effort, that much time, but we tend to spend a lot of our time doing it. But it does integrate just with what we do in daily life. So, Brian, do you have like a route? You said about rotating the food and the water. So is that a routine that's on a timed basis? Do you have a set time that you do that, or is it once a week, once a month? And how's that work?
So generator, I'll run once a month. So I'll start that up, check the oil, start it, run it for 40 minutes to an hour. Also put a load on it as well. And then I'll run it for empty, run the carb empty, put it away.
Mm-hmm.
The 55-gallon water drums, I empty them every 6 months. So there's a wall chart up here where it's all written down with the dates they were last done. And on the water butts, they've got dates when they were date of fill and date of empty. So they get done every 6 months. And the tins, I agitate them once a month. So that's not me just talking to them. I try and shake them as well.
Yeah.
And that's power banks is every 3 months. So discharge them down to 0, charge them back up, and then take them down to 80% for storage.
Yeah, so it's not like a daily thing. It's not like totally invading like all of your time. It's just as long as it gets done within X amount of time.
Maintenance. Yeah, it's just maintenance.
Yeah. Do you have a regular schedule for like rotation and stuff like that, Andy? Or is yours just put away waiting for that rainy day?
Yeah, but I'm kind of that type of guy, mate, to be honest. I mean, I've got a whiteboard screwed up in the garage where most of my stuff's kept. And that gets rotated through, and then when my partner goes soon, she'll take porridge oats or passata sauce or whatever it is. She'll take off and mark it off, and then we've also got a chest freezer, which she runs, and she's got her own whiteboard for that, and that's got how much meat's in it, what type of meat's in it, and all that type of stuff. And like I said, that probably gets rotated through made daily, through cooking tea and things like that. Things get marked off, ticked off, and then usually replenished on the weekend when we do a shop. Yeah.
Alan, how do you balance normal life and the whole survival and preparing for emergencies, or is it just seamlessly integrated?
Do you know, I was trying to think just of what I've did today. The kind of, I was thinking, what prepping have I did today, or what survival type stuff have I done today? And there is genuinely just a bit of a mindset that's just fully part of my life now. I went to the shop, I went to Lidl earlier on, I bought a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, like an extra container of it, purely because I was reading something about there's a shortage of that. So I've got a little bit, just buy a little bit more than what you need to do. I worked a little bit on the bike earlier, putting some mud guards and stuff on there because I know I'm going to be going off road with that a little bit more. So that's thinking along those lines. But another thing as well, I think this is a survivalist mindset, or even a prepper mindset, if you're thinking about everything as preparation for the unforeseen. As I was looking at booking a holiday earlier, and I'm on the the holiday website, and I'm looking at Turkey. But when I book a holiday, I don't just look at where am I going and how am I getting there. I was also looking at when was the hotel built and how's the earthquake zone in that area. And do I really want to be in that? I think about these things. Whenever I look at places, I always look at, well, what's the local dangers there? What's the terrorism threat? What's the earthquake threat? Is there hurricanes that time of year? Is there, can I swim in the sea there? It's not a lot of people do that, and I think I just do that because I'm kind of in that mindset of doing that.
I think a lot more people might do that than you realise. They just probably don't acknowledge it as much.
Possibly.
Hawkins, is what Alan's saying, is that the extreme side of things? Do you ever just have days where you don't even think about prepping, or you go a week and you won't do anything to do with it?
God, no. No.
How dare you? How dare you?
Again, there might be something wrong with me, but I probably spend way too much time thinking about it, to be honest, and running scenarios in my head and what you do in this situation, what you do in that situation. But after listening to Brian, I'm a bad lazy prepper because he's got a much more regimented routine for agitating his water and running through it. I'm more of I've got filters, it'll be fine. I do my outside water storage about once a year. I empty that out. But I'm certainly not as diligent on my power bank cycling and stuff. Mainly just, I think, because as a young child, which you've got the same issues, Mike, whereas Brian's got elder ones now, so he's probably got a bit more time on his hands.
Yeah, and a lot less money.
But that's good, right? Because I think you were doing that the other day, Hawkins. You were discharging all your radios and stuff, but that's because obviously talking to Brian and stuff, and then it's made you think about it, right?
Putting a picture in the Discord group showing that he was doing his, and I thought, you know what, I may as well join on the bandwagon. So I think I cycled about 20 radios through and charged them all back up again. So yeah.
We've got a couple of comments I'll go to. Snapdragon said, just started my ham license training today. May need some support. So feel free to ask questions. What concerns you the most in the news at the moment concerning risk and preps and survivalism? Ooh, right. Brian.
Wow. Do you know
what concerns you the most? I know everything is concerning, but in the news right now.
The unseasonably high amount of fires we seem to be getting with substations and cyber attacks. So there's a lot of slow boil stuff, but that's my major concern. There's still always power.
Yeah. Andy, what's concerning you most at the moment, and making you prep?
Civil disorder, I think, at the minute. Seems like a real undertone of people are getting more and more unhappy the longer the situation in the country goes. And people seem to forget, mate, the riots that we had weren't that long ago. Yeah. In living memory. They weren't that long ago. So that would be it for me, mate, at the minute.
Yeah. Why did you just have to adjust that can all of a sudden, Brian? Sorry.
Somebody said in the comments.
Apparently I was upsetting people in the comments, so I moved it to the front just to be a complete nutbag about it.
All right, okay. I didn't see that comment. Alan, anything in the news at the moment that's got you prepping or looking at training more?
For me personally, it's always economic. It's always I'm always looking at economic, whether it be not necessarily economic collapse, just me personally, economic. At my age and my situation, unemployment's my biggest risk, which is a real possibility, especially as the economy takes a bit of a downturn. But I mean, the thing that's really got me fired up over the past year or two is obviously the situation that's going on in Ukraine, and I follow a lot of rabbit holes down those kind of avenues.
We all love rabbit holes.
Yeah, I mean, I've always believed that nuclear conflict was the greatest risk. I used to think it was pandemic, then nuclear conflict, and then economic collapse, and those are my same worries, but they change order based on what's going on in the world.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
At the moment, it's definitely still the nuclear angle, but always economic.
Yeah. Hawkins, anything in the news at the moment that's got you prepping more or concerned more?
I don't know if it's because it's in the news or it's because I'm waiting for my solar to get installed. But like Brian said,
anxiety through the roof.
with all the unscheduled weird power outages that seem to be happening, whether it's like obviously Spain and Portugal the other week, Tenerife lost it for a little bit, Bali lost it. We had the power stations trip off at the same time as Spain, didn't we? But we had enough inertia in the grid to keep our side going. So yeah, I just feel like something like that is coming down the pipe, and I'm just looking forward to 3 weeks time. I'm literally counting down the days now to I've got power generation. So
and hoping it's not the day before. Thank you for the question, Philip Hull. I really appreciate it. Ready Prepper One said it's a lifestyle for me. Just be as self-sufficient as you can be. Greyman Prepping, dedicated to prepping 6 to 10 hours minimum daily. That includes teaching it, reading, working the prepper garden, writing novels, canning, and food processing, etc. There you go. That's dedication right there. And Brum said, "Is cooking oil in general a shortage?" What did you hear about that, Alan? Were you mentioning that one?
Olive oil. Olive oil was there's a bit of a shortage of olive oil around the world, and
based on, do we know why?
I think it's a combination of weather. They're having incredibly dry spells in Italy and Spain and the likes. There's some failed crops. The prices, if you've noticed, have pushed up dramatically, and olive oil particularly. I really only look at olive oil because I don't touch seed oils and things like that. But yeah, I mean that was just one thing that I was looking at yesterday actually, and then I was in the shop today and I thought better stock up in this now. Well, it's only a £5, because it may soon be 15 quid. And it is something that I consume a lot of, and it's good prep to have actually. Extra virgin olive oil. It's a good calorie dense food.
Yeah, and it also should trigger people to think of, if there was a shortage, other sources and what else you could use. So there's lots of options out there. Change it now, Brian. You really upset people with them meatballs. Snapdragon says cyber threats, banks and supermarkets. Utah Mike says grid power issues. Brian's just teasing everyone with his tins. That sounds like something from his other channel. Lack of ozone and the sun being more active, says Paul Thomas. And yeah, I'm going to star these questions for later. Okay, cool. Right. And now I've lost my sheet. There we go. Brian, prepper lifestyle, prep life. Thug life, innit? What skills do you practice regularly?
Well, I don't like to blow my own trumpet, but I'm quite the accomplished Pepsi can drinker. So.
All right, okay. I thought you were going to say something a lot worse than that.
The very idea. Sorry, I don't say it again.
Skills. What skills do you practice regular?
I've got a lot of hobbies, one of which is shooting. So I do centre fire, clay pigeon, different things.
Cool.
I used to snowboard a lot, but I don't do that anymore because my knees are fucked.
Can't see the prepping need, really. I'm not. Well, I suppose.
Well, imagine you're down a mountainside with a backpack with a couple of rat packs in it.
Right. Okay. We want to see that video.
A lot of DIY.
Yeah. A lot of DIY. Yeah. Cool. Andy, what skills do you practice regular regarding prepping?
I practice firelighting mate quite a bit. Pretty much every weekend.
Just anyone that pisses you off.
Yeah. And I also spend a lot of time doing different Tarp configurations as well. Because I know quite a few off by heart, but I want a few more off by heart. Instead of keep looking at keep looking back at notes of how to set it up. So they're and fitness as well, mate. I know people don't like to talk about that, but they're probably the three, Brian. They're the three main things, mate, that I would say I practice weekly, some daily.
The Tarp one's a good one because if you're ever deploying a shelter and it's because of the conditions around you, you don't want to be then pulling up a cheat sheet and trying to look, oh, is this how I do it? Is that how I do it? Because, I mean, that could be detrimental to everyone, right?
Could be fatal. Imagine you've not got a jumper with you as well.
Yeah.
You could die.
Alan, what skills?
It's a serious thing.
Alan, what skills do you practice regular?
Skills I practice are based on the seasons. So I have slightly modified pieces of kit based on the seasonality in the UK. So summer I have a different setup for that, winter a different setup for that, etc. And each of these seasons, what I'll do is I'll go out and I'll spend a few days out in the woods doing things. And based on what I do in those few days, I'll either tweak my kit a little bit, take something away, add something, upgrade something, just see where I'm at with it. And I'll always try and do something a little bit different each time I go out. Sometimes I'll hammock camp, sometimes I'll just bash her up on the floor. Sometimes I'll take an expensive tent up a mountain for no reason other than just to practice doing it because I haven't done it for a while. Because you get skill frayed really quickly with these kind of things. But there's so many things I've never even done or tried.
Yeah.
Especially in the prepper world. So there's a lot to catch up on.
But I think people fall into that habit. You've probably seen this as well, Andy, where people fall into the habit of, I was trained to do that like 10, 15 years ago. So I know how to do that, but they've not practiced it in that time, right?
Yes, mate. So we had something in the military, mate, that was called skill fade. And if you didn't do a certain skill at least once a month, you were losing it. Like it was even worse, mate, for map reading. If you were map reading weekly, skill fade was such a thing that if you didn't touch it for say on the drastic side, mate, so you didn't touch it for 3 months, and then you went out on the hills with a group of lads, you look like an absolute idiot.
Yeah,
you did not have a clue, and a lot of the skills, mate, would just go, especially with all the information that gets thrown at you. So skill fade 100%, mate, is the thing. If you haven't been practicing a certain skill for years, you better start now because you'll have lost pretty much 90% of the knowledge you've got in it.
Yeah, looks like Brian's knitting now. He's at the camera doing this.
No, I was just thinking that it was just that when Andy was saying that if you're not doing it more than once a month and the skill fades and
oh no.
What? You've got a dirty mind. I just meant that you need to keep up with your skills, that's all. What did you think, Mike?
Hawkins, what skills have you got that you practice regular? I apologise for Brian.
Probably radio being my most popular one these days, mate, is tinkering with radio. Whether it's mesh Tasticky, mesh core, HF, VHF, UHF, comms and whatnot. And then I try to get out wild camping when I can, but again, with the little one, doesn't seem to happen as much as I'd like to these days. Not as much as it used to. But hopefully, as she gets a bit older, I can bring that back and, get back out on the hills more myself.
Yeah, it's interesting that with the talking about the radios and stuff as it being a skill, because I think a lot of preppers, survivalists, whatever, will just buy the radios and think, I'll put them away, and then if I ever need them, they're there. Do you think it's something they need to practice?
Absolutely. Radio it's a very, very deep, complicated rabbit hole to go down, depending on how much you want to get out of it. And if you want to be able to use it to the best of its abilities, you need to understand it. And even me, if you want to play with like HF, digital modes and stuff, bouncing signals around the world, chatting to other preppery type people or whatever in Australia or America or Norway or wherever, if your standard rig was to break or something was to change on your computer, and again, this is going a bit geeky side of it, but if you've not played it or tinkered with it for a while, you'll be surprised how quick you can forget how to set it all up and get that system working. It's not a straightforward task in ham radios like HF digital modes and stuff, and it really is a skill fade. If I've not done it for 6 months and then something breaks, I do really have to think about it. So I try to just practice and keep up with it all these days.
Yeah.
To be fair, mate, just one mic on the radios.
Yeah.
Because I know everybody gets bent out of shape when it comes to radios, and they need this comprehensive comms plan where they can speak to the International Space Station and stuff. in your prepper plan, what do you realistically need? Because do you just need something that you can reach 2 miles down the road to where your family members are? Or do you know what I mean? In a situation where things really have gone pear-shaped, like Hawkins was saying, why would I need to talk to someone in Australia?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to or need to. I could just talk to my family who are 2 miles down the road. So when people get overwhelmed and concerned about radios, again, like I said with fitness, you don't need to run an Ironman or a marathon. Just pick the radio or the comms for what's necessary for you. And it might be that a £5 radio that only goes 2K might be perfect for you, and it might reach wherever you need to go. You don't need a ham radio, or you don't need, the newest Star Spangled Bow thing.
Yeah, no, it's a very valid point, and some people might be that insular that the family is all within walking distance, and they're all just going to gather, and that's it. They might only want like some radios for like doing excursions or whatever. So it's a very valid point. I think the benefit though of having the knowledge kind of thing that Hawkins has is the information, right? You might not think it's valuable to talk to people from other countries, but it's good to know if their power's out, if they're under attack as well, if we were, and stuff like that, to find out how extensive this is.
Yeah, true, mate. But that also depends on somebody like Hawkins being in Australia.
Yeah.
Like, it's
There's
not
only so many weird people in the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. We have a question for Brian. Do you have backup controller giving what they are saying about the Chinese worms they found in the software in the larger ones?
No. And there's a good reason for that. One, I only found out about it about a week ago. And two, given that it's at the digital circuitry level, there's nothing I can do about it. It's not like I can start replacing components on the board. Most of the power banks are made in Asia anyway. So I've no idea what's got any malware, spyware, worms or anything in it. So I'm not going to try and prepare for the day that might never come. I'll hope that mine's never get switched off in that scenario. But at the moment, I've not got enough. None of us have got enough information to make an informed decision to say, well, don't buy EcoFlow, they've been infiltrated. Buy Anchor, they're good and they're safe. So at the moment, we don't know. So the choice you've got is never buy one, or
you got to. It's risk versus reward, right? At the end of the day, and Brian's all right. He's got to worry about a few faulty power banks. I've got a Chinese electric car. I'm going to be going full kamikaze at 300 miles an hour with no control or something.
You'll be all right, Mike. You'll be all right, Mike. It won't be charged up.
Wow. Shots fired.
We've just lost connection with Andy. Oh, never mind. I'll reorder you back. Sorry. Thank you for the question. Any Tarp recommendations? We'll come to you on this one, Andy. I would say the DD myself, but I mean, what recommendations?
Yes, mate. So 3 I would recommend. So the British Army Shoot Basher is a brilliant piece of kit. Used that for over a decade. I think that's a great piece of kit. Fantastic. But the one that I use, so the ones I do use now are the DD Tarps. 3x3. You've got extra room. The material's better. And you've got quite a few features on that the military one doesn't have. So you've got reinforced corners, you've got extra loop points, you've got extra stakeout points. So if I was learning a prepper, I would buy a DD one. And the other one, mate, TRC Outdoors do their own version of like a military style basher, which is, I would say, it's probably a combination of a military one and a DD one.
Right. Okay.
Full disclaimer, mate, I've never tried them, but I know a lot of lads who use them and say the gleaming bits of kit and they rate them highly. So those would be the 3, mate, that I would suggest if somebody's looking for one.
Cool. Thank you very much. Cheers for your question, Learner Prepper. Round the table, yes or no? Can anyone mend or fix clothes, knit and sew? I can sew, very basics. I did home economics for the whole year. They forced me to do it before you can change to design tech. We'll go to you first, Hawkins. Can you knit and sew? Can you repair clothes in SHTF?
Negative, but the wife can. So she's proved useful.
She's proved useful.
she can live.
I will feed her. She can sew.
I've got a sewing machine as well.
Yeah, there you go. Alan, Can you mend your own clothes?
I can't knit, but I can sew a little bit. And yeah, I could probably mend my clothes at a very push. Duct tape can pretty much fix anything, really.
There you go. That's the best.
Including holes in clothes. There's one thing to be said, though. You should spend a little bit of if what you're planning on doing is bugging out into a wilderness location, pay a lot of attention to the clothes that you purchase, because if you're out for any long period of time, even just 2 weeks, if you're out 2 weeks in the woods, your clothes are going to get pretty beaten up pretty quickly. And if all you own is jeans and cargo trousers that you've bought from Lidl or something, they're not going to cut it. They're going to cause you a lot of problems. So you don't have to go expensive either. I mean, ex-military stuff has its place. The stuff I've got, some of it is quite expensive. There's a particular brand called UF Pro that I quite like for outdoor type stuff, which I don't see a lot of. But you're going to pay for it. But on the other hand, I don't need to worry about it tearing up.
Yeah, I like the military stuff, and I've got a ripstop smock as well, which is really cool because it's only ever going to go this far and not this far at least. Andy, surely you can sew, or is that a skill fade?
I can make, but very crude. So like if I cut my trouser leg up, like sew it closed, that type of thing. Purely stuff that I do when I was in the military. I'm not like I'm not like Mitch, who can like sew waterproof zips into gaiters and, do you know what I mean? Create fancy smocks. I have no way in shape or form, mate, if I got any skill set in that. Like I said, I can get by and sew things up, but I'm not modifying anything, or I'm not making anything more Gucci. Yeah.
Brian, you're one of the older members. Surely you can knit or cross stitch. You must be doing something in your spare time now you've retired.
I will lock you in a closet. I can sew to a basic level. So if I had holes in, I've bought probably about half a dozen sewing kits. So if I was unfortunate enough to have wear-related issues or tears, then yeah, it wouldn't look very good, mate. I'd look more like a vagrant than normal, but yeah, I could sew.
Yeah, how we look is the biggest concern after SHTF, right?
Yeah.
I would say as well, see just on the sewing kit, because I've seen this in a lot of old survival type texts and things like that. People used to carry what they called a housewife around with them, which is a little sewing kit that they keep around in their pack. I had one of those in my pack for about 10 years, never used it once.
Yes, yeah. I've got one of them. Yeah,
yeah. It's one of those overrated things, I think, in survival. All you really need is a canvas needle and some bank line, number 36. That's it.
Yeah. Or duct tape, as you said before. Amateur radio is a deep rabbit hole, but communication is key, said Wheeled Medic. And Hawkins needs some advice. Would you recommend the Baofeng AR152?
I would probably never recommend the Baofeng, but I do own plenty myself.
Elaborate.
They create a lot of spurious emissions. So the radio, because they're cheap Chinese and built on a budget, and we've got £3 worth of radio really for the cheap ones. When you're broadcasting on one frequency, they actually broadcast on other frequencies in the background and put interference out on them, spurious emissions. So I wouldn't recommend them, but on the other hand, I have lots of them. So I'm not saying don't buy one, but if I was recommending a radio, I'd go probably down the Retivis route, or if you want to spend a bit more, the VGC route, or if you want to spend an absolute fortune, then go down the ICOM and Kenwood and Yaesu route. But it's all about budget, isn't it? And what you're going to use it for, how often you're going to use it. Is it just for emergency? Is it a hobby? Is it going to get used all the time? Then spend a bit more on it. But yeah, it'd work, I'm sure. I think it's the one that he's just said is like a bit of an army clone, larger battery, 10-watt radio. But
yeah,
it'll be fine. It'll work. It just because interference, a lot of them on other frequencies. So
cool. Right. I'll leave the chat there. I was 61 behind, so I am going to miss some stuff, guys. So if you guys see anything, or if I miss anything, I apologize. Right. Brian, how often do you train for survival scenarios or drills? Now, I know you cut the power off on your family, so you have done it. How often do you do stuff like that, and how often would you like to do stuff like that?
I've got to be honest. I kind of hope sometimes I have a power cut just to see what works and what doesn't, if I'm being honest. And I know that's terrible, but I do. And we
You were
had
gutted in the storms, weren't you? When you got the roof damage, you never lost power, did you? You were gutted.
I was devastated. I lost the roof, but no power. So yeah, that was a bit of shit.
A power cut is in Hawking's daily prayers, I think.
I think it's, you never know the holes in your preps until you need them.
Yeah, very true.
Even in what you think is a test or a simulation, it's never really going to be 100%. Because you've always got the fuck up factor that you can't cater for. But so when we were on holiday, I hadn't drilled my children how to use the power banks or use the backup power and the batteries in the domestic system. So they were sitting in the dark, and we were on a cruise ship. So was it not for the fact that we could get them on the phone in port? They hadn't a clue how to use anything. They had plenty of power, but my family was sitting in the dark. So again, you don't know till you make provision.
Did that give you an excuse to do drills more often and teach them more, or is it still just gone on the way by?
I tried, but 23, 25 and 29, and she's not in the house. She's got her own house. I'm crazy dad because nothing's ever going to happen, and there's no need to learn, and you get huffs, puffs and rolled eyes. So there is zero interest until the power goes out, and they never will be interested.
Yeah, of course.
That's how it is, unfortunately.
Have you practiced the "I told you so" speech yet, Brian, for when it happens?
I'm going to get it as a tattoo on my ass just to show people.
On that note, Andy, have you done any training scenarios or drills or anything like that, or is it something you do?
When I do them, mate, everything that I do, mate, is with the intention of getting home. So I'll do stuff where I'll practice getting home without public transport, how long that takes me, what route I would take. I do that quite often from work. And then sometimes do it with my partner where we're in the city centre, something happens, how do we make it home? What happens if we make it part way home? What happens if it breaks down here? So I do scenarios like that, mate, 'cause as I said before, my whole plan is coming back home. And
is that just a thought exercise, or do you practice it as well?
Not practice it, mate. So we talk through it. So we'll actually go to the city centre.
Right.
We will say, right, X, Y, and Z's happening now. What's the best route home from here? Then we'll take that route. As we get halfway, I'll say, right, this has happened. Now what do we do? Because there's going to be some time, mate, where we're not together. There's going to be a certain time where she's going to have to make her way home, at least halfway, maybe, or to a certain point before I can get to her. So all my stuff mate's geared up to that, to then get home where all my cool stuff is. Yeah.
Excellent. Alan, do you practice actual scenarios and drills?
Sometimes. A long time ago, I decided I would spend a minimum of 30 nights out a year. And I've done that, I think, probably since I've been about 17 or 18 years old. So quite a long time ago now. You know, I'm 41 now. So that's a long time. And I've spent at least 30 to 40 nights a year outdoors under my own steam. Not necessarily doing some sort of crazy survivalist type thing. That could be a kayaking trip, a motorbike trip, car camping, glamping, you know, out with the kids, that kind of thing. But I include it all. Every now and again, though, I will just throw in there, I'm going to spend the next 2 days with extremely minimal kit, and I'm going to just track deer or do a bit of shooting on the ground that I go to. And the only reason I'm doing that is just to hone those skills a little bit. I make it a little bit more difficult than it needs to be, just for the sake of practice.
Cool. Hawkins, drills, scenarios, do you run them?
Not as much as I'd like to. I have flicked the power off a couple of times by myself here at home. The wife isn't keen for me to do it when she's here. And then I've had a few unscheduled ones in the last 3 months as well, which is nice. But no, I'll just use the excuse of little at the moment, taking up too much time. But as she gets older, you know, I'd love to be the, you know, right, power off, right, Saturday, that's it. Let's just go back to basics and run as if something has gone wrong. So
Yeah.
I do a little bit, but not as much as I'd like to, essentially.
Cool. Let's have a look in here at the chat. Yellow Teapot says we practice power cuts a few times a year, winter and summer, to find different gaps in our preps. That's a really good point. To try it in different seasons, like people that practice like going bugging out and camping regular. If you're only doing that June, July, August, then guaranteed shit will hit the fan in November, December, January. So yeah, it's a good point to practice in all seasons. Thank you for that one. My prep of the week is teaching my 6-year-old to play poker. Great skill, great game to play during power cuts. There you go. I like it. Apart from my missus, I have a house full of adult kids who are non-believers. So pointless training as they bugger off somewhere. I think it sounds like you're in Brian's situation there. Except they're not in the house, but you know, you can relate to the attitude there, sort of thing. Amphia asked, can everyone tie a fish hook? I can. I was shown how to, and I can remember that, and I can do that. A couple of different, there's about 2 or 3 different methods that I know of. But I'm terrible at casting. I need to practice fishing. Brian, can you tie a fish hook?
I can tie a line onto a fish hook, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, obviously. Why?
Yeah.
Why be so pedantic?
I thought it was a fancy knot he was talking about, in all honesty, mate.
All right, okay.
And that, not being in the scouts. No, I can tie fishing lines.
Yeah. Andy, do you fish?
Yeah, I can tie 3 or 4, mate. I did a lot when I was younger. My dad and my uncle, and I still do it probably once a year. So yeah, I can tie 3 or 4 different knots.
Alan, are you a fisherman?
Yes, I'm a fisherman. I would say as well, if what you're doing is thinking about bugging out into the wilderness to live off the land in the UK, then you should consider coastal survival above all else. You're far more likely to survive on the coast, especially the west coast of the UK, than you are in any woodland in the UK. So learn how to do a little bit of beach casting, bait trapping, bank lining, collecting mussels, things like that. There's a good book called, I think it's called Coastal Food for Free, a UK book. It's an old book, but it's a good book. You can live year round on what you can find on the coast. And that's not the case inland. So
I'm pretty sure Dave, the urban survivalist, said the same thing, similar sort of thing with regards to that. And the foraging is actually better around the coastline and stuff like that.
Yeah, so is the winter when we travel. It's easier to travel on the coast. The winters, the climate there in the winter is a little bit more hospitable. It's easier to find shelter, weirdly enough, on the coast as well. And you can see further afield. So
if I go immediately to my west coast, I'm in Blackpool. You can't survive there on a Friday night in peacetime, so I'll have no chance. So be eating rock forever. Hawkins, are you a fisherman?
I can tie a line to a fish hook. I have spent a lot of time trying to fish over the years. I have caught very, very, very few. So if it comes to surviving off fish in the apocalypse, I'll be on a crash diet from the get-go.
Traps. Be lazy with your fishing when it comes to survival.
I've got traps and I've got drag nets and stuff like that. So that would be my intention if it went Pete Tong.
There you go. Thank you, Amphia. Do you all have fire drills so your kids know what to do in a fire? Interesting, because obviously schools and workplaces run fire drills all the time. Does anyone do them at home rather than going to your 1-by-1? Does anyone just put your hand up? Hawkins is not into this. He's sat there like that. Did anyone run fire drills at all at home? Has it ever done that? No?
Never actually done a fire drill, but one thing I did do when I moved into this house a couple of years ago was make sure that I had those little fire extinguishers. So I've got 2 upstairs and I've got 2 downstairs. And I remember the law just changed on fire alarms and carbon monoxide alarms at the time. So I made a point of digging deep into that at the time, and I went over the top with it. So I've got them in pretty much every room of the house now. So
yeah, I thought I was quite sufficient with fire extinguishers, and then I went and met Hawkins, and he's got a full Halo system going on there.
Again,
you're quite ready for a fire there, Hawkins, aren't you?
I think I've got 9 smoke and CO detectors, and I've got, I think there's like 13 or 14 big fire extinguishers, like 6 kilo ones in the house. So yeah, I hope to never have to use them, but they are here.
Yeah, better to have them and not need them than need them and not have them.
I didn't have that many fire extinguishers.
Yeah.
I would need a
To
whole
be
other
fair,
house.
if you all those fire extinguishers and you throw some bed sheets up at the windows, you could survive a nuclear blast. You'd be fine
I'll
with that.
bear that in mind.
Andy's not being serious. Don't put that as part of your
No,
plan.
disclaimer, I'm not being serious.
Anything but the next
I thought I've seen that in a video.
You guys behave. All right. Right. Okay. So, do you teach your family members or others any prepping skills? Brian, you've tried to show them things, but do you actively try and teach anyone?
My son, whilst I love him to bits, he couldn't hammer a straight fucking nail. I've tried to show him some things, so I'm actively trying to get him to participate in some similar hobbies to me. And that's what I've tried to do. And also, my wife, hopefully at some point she'll come along to different clubs that I go to. That sounds really bad, actually. But yeah, I'm trying to get them all up the same sort of hobby theme as me, slowly but surely.
Yeah. Andy, do you teach anyone any sort of skills? Obviously, apart from the medium of YouTube.
There's only me and my partner, mate. So, but yeah, I do. So she's got her own set of power banks, all that type of stuff, mate. She's got her own EDC. She's better at lighting fires than me now. So
but that's annoying, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very. So I do teach stuff, mate, and we do practice stuff together. But like I say, there's only the two of us. So
yeah. Hawkins, are you giving any training to anyone or helping anyone with their skills?
Little's too young yet. The wife, not really skills, but she has come round to my mindset of prepping. Like, she's very stocking up the food, making sure we've always got fridges full, making sure
that's a harder battle than teaching skills. That's an achievement right there.
She's always got her phone charged. That's probably my fault for like buying her chargers for a desk in work, putting fast chargers in the car and things like that. She's always got a power bank in her bag. She's got a lovely little Spyderco knife in a bag. She's got bits and bobs like that, and she does do the half a tank is an empty tank in the car. So yeah, although I don't teach skills, she has come around to my way of thinking in other aspects.
Yeah. Cool. Alan, do you teach any family members? Obviously, they get involved with the camping trips and stuff like that, but do you teach them any specific prepping skills or survival skills?
Slowly but surely, I think. My son's still he's 8 years old, so he's still a little bit young. Although he's in the Cubs, which is kind of like the club before the Scouts. And last week he was, they were showing them how to use Firidarian rods to start fires and things like that. So I thought, I've got a bunch of them. I'll give you one of them. I gave him this one, which is one of these big ones. And the reason I've got it here in this room is because I've had to take it off him, because he's running around the house, striking this thing all over the place. And they're bloody, they're hot. You could easily start a fire with one of these. So I'm having to control it a little bit, but it's getting the interest going. So hopefully, there's no point in trying to force your kids into these kind of interests, because eventually they'll just rebel and say, "Oh, not interested. It's not cool enough," and they'll go back to the PlayStation. But slowly but surely, that's the way to do it, I think.
Yeah. Get them excited about it first, and force the responsibility afterwards. What's the most important skill a prepper should have, in your opinion, Brian?
Ooh.
Even if it's a skill you may not have yourself.
Listening. You should be able to listen, because you don't know everything, you'll never know everything, and be willing to learn.
There you go. Good one. Andy, most important skill a prepper should have?
Shelter building.
Yeah.
Whether that be with a tarp, whether that be how to make one out of natural materials if you're out somewhere, different types of shelter, what they will protect you from, what they won't protect you from.
That's a great segue onto the what we were talking about before as well, getting the kids involved, because I mean, who didn't build dens when they were kids?
Yep,
and
exactly,
you know,
mate,
yeah, cool. Shelter building. Alan, most important skill a prepper should have in your opinion?
It's difficult to narrow it down to a single skill without talking forever about all the different skills that overlap each other. But I think it's to genuinely understand what your immediate need is in your area, and make sure you've got a little bit of a safeguard towards if that goes away. You know, what happens if where you
awareness? Would you
away.
say awareness then?
Yeah, local awareness. You know, of your particular personal situation, because it's different for everybody. You know, if somebody says to me, "What's the most important skill out in the woods to have?" Well, it depends what woods you're in and what time of year you're in, and I would probably point them towards the 5 and 10 C's of survivability. But you know, that's 10 skills, not one. You know, it's really just a case of what do you need at this immediate time? Can you live without it?
Yeah, about prioritizing. Hawkins, a most important skill a prepper should have, in your opinion?
To be able to deal with a situation, to be able to like triage it and assess it and keep a level head and come up with your plan of action to deal with whatever incident may be taking place, whether it's a car accident or there's a nuclear blast gone off 10 miles away and you're hiding behind any curtains, or like, you know, whatever it happens to be. But just that ability to keep a level head, keep calm, think about it, and put your plans into action. Because at the end of the day, we've probably all thought of tens of thousands of scenarios between us in our heads, and we've probably thought what we do in this situation, what we do in that, and it's just doing that at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like at the very top of my list would be fire starting and stuff like that, because that boils your water, that keeps you warm. It ticks so many boxes. But if it's most important, then I would say the ability to plan and organize. That would be the one for me. Kind of tips on what Horace has said. Horace says mindset. John Knox says adaptability, which Snapdragon agrees with as well. Knowledge says ready prepper 1. So that's cool. Home fortification 100% says preparing the path. Just having a look, see if there's anyone else put some skills in there. Miss Worm said the capacity for rational thought. Brian, are you listening? The capacity for rational thought. Yeah.
I have the capacity, I just don't use it.
Yeah, cool. All great skills and stuff like that. Here's a good one for prep life. Brian, what's your go-to meal from your medium to long-term food supplies?
Oh, that would be a rat pack.
Yeah?
Yep. I actually genuinely like the British Army rat packs. I think they're brilliant.
You've never had the vegetarian sausage and beans, clearly.
I'm very selective with the menus, and only tend to stock what I like. And if I was ever giving any away out of the box of 10 that I buy at a time, all the veggie shit's going out the window first. But medium term stuff, it would be a rat pack. That's out of what I stock, that's probably my go-to.
Yeah. Andy, what's your go-to meal in a SHTF situation? What's the thing you're going to look forward to eating most, if anything?
I would look forward to eating the most. You know, weirdly, mate, some of those, so like Brian said, some of those British Army ration packs are quite tasty, believe it or not. Now, these are some really nice ones, like the the chicken curry one's really good. Pretty much all the breakfast ones are good. Yeah, I would
rat pack as
them.
well. Yeah, cool. Alan, what's your go-to meal from your food supply if you had to choose something?
Well, me personally, I'm in a position where I've got quite a bit of venison and things like that, because I do a little bit of hunting, so I always keep my own stock of that. Well, I suppose if I had none of that stuff available, then it's dynamite, hot stag chili and pasta. not rice, pasta with it.
You mentioned stag chili before. I thought you were going to say stag chili. Brian's just eyes lit up at venison, thinking, this guy's not far from me. I know where I'm shopping in SHTF. Hawkins, what's your go-to meal from a medium to long-term food supply?
If it was something off the tin shelf, it'd be beans on toast with some grilled spam thrown on top.
Where are you getting the bread from? Maniac.
I've got enough flour in this house, I've said before, to make a loaf of bread for years. So,
there you go.
Beans on toast, mate.
Cool. Beans on some rendition of toast that's probably his flour bread that he's made in a pan. So cool. I like it. Ready Prepper One said beans. Sorry, mine was believe it or not. Now I didn't rate the number of calories and stuff in them and stuff like that, but the ReadyWise stuff I got, the stroganoff they have in there is beautiful. And I've only got 2 bags of that, and that's going to be my treat in SHTF. I'll have to add something to it so I don't keel over from lack of calories, but it was still nice. It was still nice. Lewis Whiston says, all-day breakfast and chili con carne, MRE all the way. Pair it with freeze-dried eggs and cheese, says Lewis as well. Horace is holding up one for the team. Spam. Yes, got to be the spam. Spam or bacon grill, the endless prepper debate. Oh no, Happy Homestead. That can't be what you're looking forward to. You can't.
Right. Not a chance, man.
I got a bag of crushed ones somewhere over here that just got whipped straight out of a ration bag. Bomber said definitely hash and beans. He said to you, Andy, for that one. I'd knock up a cheeky lasagna. Look at that, chefing spag bol or lasagna. And Screech. No, don't put that in your water. You've just ruined your water.
I tell you what, mate. You have a packet of that Screech, you'd be running for 3 days straight.
It's vastly improved. I don't know if my taste buds have changed, but I had the orange one, like, when was that? It would be 2001. So I had the orange one then, and it was Screech because it was like kind of thing. But I had one the other day, and it was quite nice. But it wasn't, there was no orange. It was like some weird random fruit flavor, but it was a lot better. Spam with spam, says Brum. Side of spam with your spam. That's what you need. Everyone gets, as soon as you mention food, like you mentioned everything else, there's 1 or 2 comments. Mention food, everyone's getting involved. Chickpea curry. There we go. I'm not sure. It must mean, I don't know, shabby wise.
Not a fan of ReadyWise then.
No, tuna pasta. Canadian Forces cannoli is mint. I don't think I'd fancy mint cannoli. Mint cannoli. Right. Okay.
I'll tell you what. Just last one, mate, on food.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what are good if you can get them. I've never seen them in this country. I think I might have one somewhere. Is the Norwegian ones, the Norwegian army issue rations? They were the best ones I've ever had.
Yeah.
Hands down, beat everything.
Is it not the Norwegian that's like 4,000 calories in the 24 ration pack? Yeah, it's quite a substantial one.
They're all dehydrated as well.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is boil water, add it in, and you're good to go. So if anyone get hold of any of them, they would be good for you to try.
There you go. Cool. I'm not recommending ReadyWise because, like I say, the calorie count's just ridiculous. You'd have to eat 12 meals a day to hit your calories. But it was just a nice flavor. I know the answer to a lot of this, but we'll ask for continuity. Are your friends and family supportive of your prepping lifestyle? Hawkins, we'll go to you first.
Not really. But I mean, nobody's against it. Everyone just says, do what you want to do sort of thing. But no one's like, I don't know anyone close to me of similar mindsets like you guys quite to the same level. I've got my own little prepper group that we talked about last week, but so they're not really local, but yeah, mixed. We'll leave it mixed.
Do you try and change that, or do you just let them do them?
Oh no, yeah, I preach it. I send links of all sorts and articles to people to try and encourage them and poke them along our little road. But certain people follow, but a lot of people are just like, meh, whatever happens, happens, or I'll come to you is always the one, isn't it? So
yeah. Muxley says, I don't have friends. Oh. Alan, are your friends and family supportive of your lifestyle?
I think they're probably just used to it now, the ones that know about it, I suppose. But I guess they're more dismissive about it than anything, you know. And it's one of those things that I think over the years, if I go to a job and I'm speaking to somebody I don't know and they ask me what I'm doing at the weekend, you know, I tend not to say, well, I'm actually going to go out and practice tracking. You know, I'll probably say something along the lines of bit of fishing or camping. Camping's usually a generic because that can mean anything. You know, for me, camping is something quite a bit different than pitching a tent somewhere. But
yeah,
like I say, survivalists and probably the same with preppers as well, we're a little bit cautious about, you know, going on about it too much in public, I think, despite the fact we're on the internet right now. But
well, I mean, that's a stigma we're trying to break, right, as well.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's
I think if you say to somebody you're a survivalist, they probably think you're the Unabomber or something. You know, it's the connotations of these words, you know, they're tarnished, you know.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, we're following lots of survivalists. You know, if you're a survivalist and you were in Waco, you failed because you didn't survive. Andy, your friends and family supportive of your prepping lifestyle? Obviously, you've told us that the missus is, but what about other friends and family?
Friends are me, but most of my friends are people I served with, so they have that mentality anyway. Family-wise, they're not. Like, we were out for a meal with family a couple of weeks ago, and my partner said to me, I can't remember what she said, that but something along the lines of, we've ran out of, I don't know what it would be, bacon grill. And I said, oh, well, just take some out the preps in the garage. She's like, oh, yeah, good idea. And then one of them said, I don't know what you think's going to happen to have all that food stocked up and all these things you have going. And I was like, all right, yeah, okay. And then the other one was like, well, if anything happens, we'll come to your house. And I was like, good luck getting in, because you're on your own. I mean, I'm not sitting here while you're slagging me off saying, I don't understand what you've got this food for. And then when something goes wrong, you're knocking at my door wanting my bacon grill. Not happening. So, like I say, mate, friends do, but then again, friends are people I serve with, and you know how bad and how quick things can get that way. But all family members, mate, look at you like you look like you're weird. Until mate, something happens. But then again, mate, like we said earlier about the riots and stuff, as soon as things go back to normal, people just wipe the memory of how bad things were, and they just seem to forget about them, and they just go back into the bubbles they were.
Same with C19, stuff like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly the same thing.
Yeah. Brian, friends and family supportive? I mean, you're quite lucky. You've got a brother not far away who's well on board as well.
Older brother's very much on board. He's a true believer.
He drank the Kool-Aid. Yay!
He drank the Kool-Aid. His family are like mine. They tolerate it, but they mock and laugh pretty much like my kids do.
Yeah.
Rest of the family, no. Friends, they'll listen with a kind of polite smile and they'll tease, but they don't obstruct. So I think that's as good as it gets.
Cool. I'll go to the questions I've starred before I go back to this. First, Ready Prep One said you can put flames out with sound waves. Oh, well, that's not a problem. I'll just send the missus to go and talk to the fire. Job done. Soon we will be running drills, which is cool. If you had a local SHCF where you needed neighbours, etc., what skills would you teach to them to be self-sufficient if you had to? It's an interesting one when it talks about like building communities. We've talked about that a lot of times before, but what skills could you impart onto them, Brian, for neighbours and stuff? What would be most important in them situations?
sense of community would have to be built, because I could only teach them some things and they would teach other people other things. We would only thrive as a community. So that would be the best skill to try and get them to learn, that we need one another. That's simple as that for me.
Right. Okay. Andy, skills to pass on if it was building like a community post disaster?
The first one, mate, I would probably give them purely to give a bit of a feel good factor and to get them drawn more into the community aspect was I'd probably teach them how to forage.
Yeah.
Because you can't move it around here without hitting a raspberry bush, blackberry bush, things like that. So I would teach them a little bit, mate, of what food they can eat and what they can't eat.
Yeah. And then many hands doing that would also help the community.
Exactly. Yeah. And it would be, and I think it's important when something like that happens, the goal for someone to achieve has to be low.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not going in there and teaching them how to filtrate water through 10 different filters. The goal, if you're going to start a community, it has to be something low enough that people can achieve, feel good, confirm that skill, and then move on to something higher. So for me, mate, it would be like small skill foraging, berries, that type of thing.
Cool. I like that. Foraging's a good one. Alan, if you're local SHTF and you had to get the neighbours involved, what skill would you teach them?
Do you know, I've been looking into other places around the world where things have happened. So you've got the BLM riots that took place in the United States a while back, and there's some things happening in South Africa that are quite concerning around certain communities as well. And something those communities do to look after themselves is they form a sort of, I suppose it's like a neighborhood watch. So security, getting on board with the idea of having a local group of people who delegate out security details, and they patrol and they stag on certain places and they feed that back to a central location and spread the information out. It's kind of like eyes on everywhere.
Yeah.
That's the one thing you can very quickly teach a community to do, and it has universal benefit to everybody. It's a shared benefit. After that, you can start delegating based on what's your skill. What can you bring to the table, and that'll be the thing that they go and do. But security is the number one thing, I think, and that's the only thing you as an individual can never do better than a group of people.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think foraging, a group of people could gather more berries than just one, but I understand what you're saying 100%. Hawkins, if it's the community involved, what skill could you pass on to them?
So I take it this is like after a situation has happened, an event's happened, and then you kind of rally together sort of thing.
Yeah, of course. Like we've talked about previously, we're already at the point where, your road's closed off, you're getting all the community involved and stuff like that. So we're at that stage.
I think the first thing I would teach people, apart from what kind of Alan just said then, would be water. Because I think the first thing that would affect everybody would be a lack of clean water. So it would be the importance of clean water, sanitation, how to sterilize it, sharing what I have with people to be able to purify large batches of water so everybody had clean water. Because if you don't have clean water, people would be dead within 7 days from dysentery and diarrhea and everything. So yeah, water would be my weapon of choice.
Sanitation is a good one, actually. If you're in a position where your sewage system isn't working and things, then a community latrine's high on the list of something you need to sort out quickly.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think we all went to that straight away on like week 1 when we did our a scenario one. So yeah, it's definitely a good point. Thanks for the question, Philip. The wife's on board, but the bairns think we're nuts because we gave them a storage box full of preps each as a housewarming gift. Great gift.
Yeah.
Amphia asks, what knife if cost was not a consideration? Anyone got any recommendations on this front? Hawkins?
If it's an everyday carry sort of knife, I'd literally
I think we have to eliminate that because of the amount of restrictions we have. Let's just say it's a general camping, bushcraft, do everything one.
I've got a couple of nice K-bars, which I like. And I've got my eye on some Spydercos that I like, but they're like 270 quid. So they're outside of my disposable money range at the moment. And then the other ones that I've had my eye on for a long time are some Benchmade ones. But yeah, I bought a K-bar probably because it's on the cheaper end of the Gucci knife range. But yeah, I'm not a massive knife man, to be honest. I've got an everyday carry, one little Spyderco that I carry, and I've got a couple of K-bars and things, but I've not got large collections of kind of Crocodile Dundee sort of things.
Any recommendations, Alan, for Amphia?
I don't actually have a large collection of knives either. I've got a few. Over the years, you tend to get a lot of knives and things. Even if money was no object, though, I would probably recommend something like this. This is an Enzo. You get Enzo Scouts and Enzo Trappers, which is a carbon steel knife with a Scandi grind. It's pretty much a do-all bushcraft knife. Something like this is really, really good. At the time I bought that, I think it was probably about 90 quid. I think they're about 150 quid now. Went up a little bit in price, but it's a great knife. Very easy to sharpen, easy to maintain. You really can do everything with it. If you're broke, though, there's lots of really good cheap knives out there.
Yeah, the Temu version. Andy, recommendations for this one? If what knife would you have if cost was not a consideration?
To be fair, mate, a lot of my stuff, mate, was custom made by Del Weber, Dirty Room Knives.
Okay.
So I would have recommended him, mate, but he's closed for the foreseeable.
All right.
And I don't know if he's going to reopen. So other than that, mate, I would probably go with Hawkins, mate. I would say K-Bar.
Would you generally recommend like them kind of places that make them, like hand make them and stuff like that, over big brands?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I've got quite a few off Dell, and the workmanship, mate, is unbelievable. And the best thing about that is, mate, you can tailor that for what you want: blade thickness, bevel edge, the different features you want in a knife. So that's the benefit of doing that. But if I was just going to buy something off the shelf, I'd probably go K-Bar. I was lucky enough to have a look and have a use of the K-Bars when I was in Afghanistan with the US Marines at Rutten Bastion before I ripped out to my fob. So I would probably say K-Bar, mate. If I was going there, if you wanted a solid, robust knife that was going to last you through whatever was going to come.
Cool. Brian, same question. If cost wasn't a consideration?
I am not a knife person at all, mate.
Butter knife.
Anything that's stabby, pointy. I don't have enough knowledge about it to even give a decent
What he meant by that was anything that's carvy, crafty. He didn't mean stabby, clearly.
No, obviously not in people.
All right, cool. I mean, mine would be the one I can't get. It's the British MOD survival knife, which Andy probably knows as well what I'm on about. It's just a giant, big, clunky, heavyweight thing. You can batten with it and everything, but you just can't get them. They're like, rocking horse shit. So that would be mine. Yeah. And I have to pay a lot of money to try and pry it out of somebody else's fingers, I think. But
Dave Canterbury's shop does a very similar knife to that. I can't remember what it's called.
I've seen a lot of copies of them and stuff like that. They're like 100 quid sort of thing, and I probably end up getting one just to try it. But I don't know. There's something I just want an original one. It'd just be nice to own. Be nice for the collection. Not that I have a collection. So yeah. Thank you for that one. I've only got a couple of questions left, guys. I know we're pressing time on here, so I'll try and get through them really quickly. There's only 2 left, which is more centered around let's help out everyone else. Brian, we ask it a lot of times in podcasts and stuff like that, but what is one thing, let's try and all come up with something different for this so everyone else has got a bit of time to think. What's the one thing people often overlook when it comes to preparedness?
How quickly it can go wrong.
Okay. So
they don't appreciate And I'll couple of examples briefly. Spain, people went to work, couldn't get home. COVID-19, Boris Johnson came on the TV, told everybody you can't go to work, you can't go to shops, can't buy anything. Things happen, bad things happen very, very quickly. And all your what-ifs that you'll do and all these plans you've got in place, they're rat shit and they go right out the window. And that's for Go Blog's everyday person. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Cool. All right. That's a good point. Andy, something that people often overlooked when it comes to preparedness?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same vein as Brian, mate. Like the old saying, you know, your plan won't survive first contact with the enemy, and it's same with preparedness. Whether that would be if you've got a plan for if you get stuck at work for a flood, for want of a better reason, your people don't take into consideration you want to go from here to here to here to home.
Mm-hmm.
People and the environment and different situations have got other ideas, and something like Murphy's Law, mate, whatever can happen will happen, and something along that route or that plan is going to happen that's going to shift you off, and you're going to have to make a whole different plan. So you need to have 2 or 3 different ideas or plans or routes to, if you do get contact, for want of a better word, or shifted off your route, you have another way to get home, you have another option, you have other routes or other avenues to make your ultimate end state as feasible as possible. And I think people make a plan and they're like, right, from electricity goes out, right, we're going to go from here to here, meet up, then we're going to go home. But in between that, mate, you've got everybody else who wants to go home.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the bad people who are going to come out the instant that something bad happens. So you need 2 or 3 different options, mate. That's what I think people need. That's what I think people don't take into consideration, that your plan won't survive first contact with whatever happens.
So would you say often overlooked is like backup upon backup when it comes to planning and contingencies?
Yeah, I think you need primary, secondary, tertiary.
Yeah,
that would be my first. If I was going to give anyone advice on that front, it would be, to get from here to here, to get from your place of work to home, in that optimal route is your primary route, and why wouldn't it be? But when something happens on that route, then you have to fall back secondary. If something happens on that route, then you move to your tertiary one to be able to maintain and get to your end state. Cool.
Thank you for that. Alan, what's one thing people often overlooked when it comes to preparedness?
Something I overlooked during the C19 days was the institutions of what we have today, local government, national government, and the way that people react to what they think we should be doing. It might be that they're doing things based on a collective good or from their perceived view of a collective good, but that will have a massive impact on you individually. You really have to think about how can you adapt or improvise around what's being forced upon you by the institutions, and society around you is going to move around what they're being told to do, because that's just what we're used to doing. Who could have foreseen that you were going to be forced to stay in your house and wear masks in car parks and nonsense like that? It didn't make any sense then, and something happened again, there would be things like that happening that wouldn't make sense. One thing I like to point out to other preppers I've been speaking to online recently is when they're sort of making their plans for this nuclear war, that a lot of them think, well, what if it's a localized nuclear attack in the UK? The whole of the UK is not wiped out. This is what I'll do. Is like, you've got to realize that if there was a localized nuclear attack in the UK, we would be at war. So you don't get to just hunker down in your house and live off your preps, because if you're a man, you're now a soldier, because the institutions will force you to be one. Look at Ukraine. So you have to improvise around how would you adapt to that. If you've got children of a certain age, they're going to get called up. We're not just going to allow China or Russia to nuke us and then do nothing about it. Things are going to happen.
It's a good point as well to what we spoke about before, getting the family involved, because I've started labeling up all my stuff, but not just, I used to have it labeled up with like shorthand that I knew what it was, but I've started really in-depth labeling stuff up. So it's like, this is all the stuff you need to cook and instructions inside, because if I'm not here, they need to be able to do it. So it's a good point. Hawkins, well, one thing people often overlook when it comes to preparedness, apart from having solar on the house.
Someone should put this on a t-shirt, but I like the slogan, no one's coming to save you.
It's over here.
I think that's something that new preppers need to realise. Depending on the situation, it might be you've only got to last a couple of days if it's something localised, or if there was like as I always go back to, a nationwide grid down, it was out for months. Nobody is coming to save you at that point. You're literally on your own. So have your plans in place. Like Andy was saying, your primary, secondary, tertiary, you're going to want multiple plans for every different situation in that event. But I love that slogan that somebody should put on a t-shirt. No one is coming to save you.
It's on a t-shirt, and Miss Worm will put the link to the t-shirt. Hopefully, that'd be awesome if you could do that.
Actually, it reminds me a little bit. I've got a policeman friend, and he once says to me, a lot of people think if I'm in trouble, I'll just phone 999. And he says he likes to always tell them that the police actually don't stop very many crimes. They investigate crimes after they've happened.
Yeah.
The thing has happened to you. The police are not rescuing you; they're solving it afterwards. So
listen, I only ring the police if I need a crime reference number for insurance. That's it.
I wouldn't even ring my mate after I know him and he's in the police.
The chats took this very literally. Miss Worm said jelly babies. Brum Prep said spam. Evil Girl says loo roll. So there's a set of playing cards. Entertainment is a very overlooked thing. It's a very good point that most overlooked prep is financial preparations. Loads of great answers in the chat. Fighting skills are constantly overlooked. Hiding skills is overlooked. So I'm going to try and steal Andy one weekend and we do a video on camouflage. That would be awesome. So if he's up
that's
for
a good
that,
idea, mate. Yeah, definitely make a camo concealment video. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I want to get up there and we'll do that. We'll make that happen. That'll be awesome. We'll put it on both of our channels. So make sure you watch out for that one. Very last question, gentlemen. Sorry, what?
Get the ghillie suits out.
No, it's going to be urban. It's just going to be us lying there cutting litter in the high street. You see very last question, gentlemen. I'll let you go. How do you stay motivated to keep prepping? Because I'm sure I have. I mean, I can't speak for you guys. I'm sure a lot of us have had moments where it's like, just can't do it this week, sort of thing, that kind of thing. So how do you stay motivated to keep prepping? Hawkins?
I've not reached that point yet.
You've never had a slip?
No, but I mean, you could just read mainstream media and see the shit that goes on around the world, and if you get really desperate, you could check out certain YouTube channels of people who like to say the sky is falling. That should provoke you to prep a bit harder. But no, I've not reached burnout yet on that point of view. So
yeah. Some of them channels can be motivational, It might have motivated Brian to try and get a freeze dryer. So it's on the list. Alan, how do you stay motivated? You mentioned before that like you spend all this time out and you have done for a long time. What keeps you motivated for doing that?
I think for doing that kind of stuff, it's just that I just enjoy doing it. It would be a lot harder if this was something I was trying to force on myself as a type of skill. It's like, I've decided I'm going to be an outdoorsman or something, and I'm forcing myself to do that activity when I really hate it. It's just something I've always loved doing, even when I was a child. So to me, that part's easy. But if you want to be motivated to make sure you're doing prepping and survivalism to its highest point, then spend a little bit of time looking into what's actually happening in the world just now. But I don't mean so if you look at what's going on in Ukraine, pay less attention to the bigger geopolitical situation because you've got no control over that. Take a look at what the wives of the soldiers are doing in their community and how they're banding together and what the food bank situation is there. Actually look at what's happening from a community point of view, because that's what would happen here as well. There's no different here than it is there. And then you suddenly start realizing, what if they just knew, if they just had a little bit of forward thinking and just did a little bit of preparation here, a little bit of preparation there, they wouldn't have, X, Y, and Z problem. And you can go deep into rabbit holes all over the world with that kind of information.
It's good to see the people impact on not just the frontline glitz what the media put on it. I do. It's a very good point. Andy, what keeps you motivated to keep prepping? Or how do you stay motivated? Sorry.
To be fair, mate, I'm a bit of a kit pest, so I love all of that stuff that surrounds it. So kit, equipment, all that type of stuff. So that maintains my interest, but I suppose it's part of my routine, mate. So I think if people are struggling with it, just make it part of your routine. So like I said earlier, half an hour in the morning, I replan the stuff that I've used during the day. And that's predominantly, so when I go to work, it'll be med stuff that I dish out during the day, because lads know I have it. And it helps me rotate stuff when they use it. So mainly, mate, it's painkillers that get rotated.
Yeah.
So paracetamol, ibuprofen, that type of stuff. The odd steri strip or plaster if someone cuts herself. So on a morning, mate, on a morning it gets checked, as same as the ED stuff does. It gets in my bag. I'll go to work. When I come home, the half an hour I spend, I replan it all. So whatever's been used, obviously I replan, and then it's good to go for the next day. Then in the morning, I double check everything's good to go. So if you implement stuff, mate, it's part of your routine, and you filter it through, it doesn't feel like a chore. It doesn't to me anyway. That's just part of, this is the bit before I go to work. This happens when I get after. And then I move on. So if you're struggling with it, and I think as well, mate, I think why people struggle with it is they come on streams like here and then they listen to us 5 talk, and we've got all this stuff done and we've got all this prep work done. So when people see, how on earth does it only take them half an hour a day? Yeah, but we've been doing it for years. When you've been doing it for years, you can get to the end state where it only takes you half an hour.
Yeah.
Or it might take you an hour. I think that's important for people to remember. Don't think you're going to end up like us 5 overnight. It does take time. And it's small steps, climb mountains. Keep chipping away at it. And then in 18 months' time, you might be at a point where you've got everything you need for what your plan is. And then it will only take you half an hour a day. And then your motivation to keep prepping will be higher because you don't feel overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, excellent point. Thank you, Andy. Brian, have you ever slipped on the motivation front, and how do you stay motivated to do it?
I haven't slipped, and two main reasons. One, responsibility. I have to prep for my kids who don't feel I need to. So even if I did have a little wobble, that responsibility or sense of would keep me on the straight and narrow. But apart from that, I enjoy it. It interests me. It's let me meet a lot of good people. I get a lot of fun out of it. So I don't see that changing in the mid to long term.
Cool. Good to know. I mean, I'll openly admit, I've had moments where I've been thinking, I'll just, because it's easy to say, I've got the stuff now, I'll stop. But I think you do get remotivated. I think I've been more motivated in the last year doing this channel, building the community, than I ever have been before. And I would say that to anyone who's wanting the motivation is get involved in the community. Go on these guys' channels, go and check out their videos, get into their comment section. They've all got their own little communities on their own channels. So go and check that out and join us on Discord and stuff like that. Apart from Hawkins, he doesn't exist in real life. So he's just an illusion. But yeah. The community and just getting involved with other people and getting out there, going to the events and stuff and testing your stuff. It's all motivational for that reason. Right, I think that's it. We'll call that time. Appreciate everybody in the chat. I am really sorry if I didn't get to your questions. I try and keep up best I can. There's 123 of you in here still. So before everyone goes, I would like them to all tell you about their channel so you can go and check them out and what they do. I want 1 minute elevator pitches, totally polished guys, because you've done this so many times before. Brian, the seasoned pro, tell us all about Scottish Prepper 73.
I try and do videos on things that interest me. and things that I think will be an issue, which I tend to believe will be power related. So I prep for things that will make my life a little bit easier should we have a short, medium, or long-term grid down situation. That's basically it.
Excellent. So go, mate. Miss Worms posted Brian's channel there. Brian, it's not just wise. So go and check that out. Make sure you show him some love there. Andy, tell us all about the Bombardier.
Yeah, so Bombardier channel. It is, I suppose, it does lean on the military side of things to do with prepping, but it's more so in the support side of the military, because I was artillery. So it's a lot different to what you would get off somebody who's based in the infantry. And I go down that route. That's what I'm going to go down. I put my first video out, and I got a great reception off the guys here. So thank you everyone who watched and commented. And I'm going to drop a video tomorrow. I'm going to do a review on the DD Tarp that Ricky Omega in the chat wanted. So I'm going to drop a video on that tomorrow on the channel at some point. So when I do, I'll drop in the Discord for everyone.
There you go. So if you're interested in the tarps that we talked about before, make sure you go and check that video out. Make sure you go and subscribe to the Bombardier and check out his content. Alan, tell us all about the World Survivalist.
So most of the videos I've got are, I suppose, wilderness survival based. They're categorized up into, I suppose, it's like a personal blog of camping related trips that I've been on throughout the year. There's some kit review videos on there. There's not a lot. I don't really do this. This is something new to me. I may do some more of that in the future. Recently, I've been looking a little bit more into the prepping side of things as well, the more urban side, the more homesteading type stuff. So there'll be some of those videos to come, I think, as well. But for the most part, it's me in a wood somewhere or on a mountain and under a bash or in a tent. I try and go different places, interesting places. I've been to Switzerland and Poland and places like that on there. I'll try and up the game on that over the years. So
excellent. There you go. So if you want to see the Scotsman in the woods, go and check out the World Survivalist. Miss Worms posted the channel there as well. So make sure you go and show us some love. Hawkins, tell us all about the benefits of wearing flip-flops. I don't know what else you could do.
You can get flip-flops with the bottle opener on the bottom of them.
Wow, life changed. Everyone's mind's just been blown. No, thank you, gentlemen, for joining me, and for everyone in the chat for joining in. Brian, would like to say goodbye to everyone?
Goodbye, everyone.
Short, sweet, simple. Andy, would you like to say goodbyes?
Bye, everyone, and thank you to Grass Monster 3, who's just subbed to my channel.
There you go. There you go. Excellent. Make sure you do that, guys. Make sure you go and subscribe to all these channels. They give up their time to come on here and impart their knowledge. It's the least you can do. Alan, would you like to say goodbye to everyone?
Yep. I would also, in fact, this will be slightly cryptic, I think, as well, because I've got a couple of survivalist type friends, I suppose. Never met them. But they know who they are, and they're watching with interest, because dipping their feet into the prepper world for them is a bit of, they don't really see the value of it, or they do, and they're thinking about it, and they're unsure about the tack I'm taking. So like I said to them a couple of days ago, the next time I did something like this, I made sure that they would be tuned in, and I know they are. So for you guys, there is value in this.
There you go. There you go.
Pop
I don't
on the Discord channel if they're interested for a chat. Just pop on.
Yeah, come and join the Discord. Survivalists are welcome. I think every prepper is a survivalist as well. Otherwise, you're just on a countdown to starvation. So you've got to have a skill set at the end of that to forage, etc. So I think there is a crossover there, and we should merge.
I've sent them the links, and one of them, I won't name who he is, but he is a big YouTuber, and he is probably going to make an appearance at some point in Discord, I think.
Okay, well, tell him he needs to come on the podcast for an interview then. Right, Hawkins, would you like to say goodbye to everyone?
No, thank you.
Classic. We'll leave that there. That's a good sign out. Thank you everyone for joining us on the Fireside. Thank you to Miss Worm, our awesome moderator. Don't forget to check out Miss Worm's channel as well. Published author, some great scary stories. Gives up her time for all of us. We really appreciate her, and all the other moderators in there as well. Appreciate everything you do. Thanks for joining us, guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Round the fire, warm and bright, stocked up food for the night. Got our plans set in gold for the days when it's cold. Tools and gear stacked up high in the cabin we reside, listening to the winds howl, prepping for the morning's prowl. At the purpose fireside we stay, ready for that fateful day. Stories shared and hearts alight, round the fire every night. Water stored in jugs and tins, bunkered down through thick and thin. Maps and routes all drawn and laid, preppers live unafraid. At the purpose fireside we stay, ready for that fateful day. Stories shared and hearts alight, round the fire every night. In the glow of embers dance, we've prepared for every chance, living simple, living true.